Okay, now it should be shared.
With the, yeah, okay, thank you very much.
Okay, no, this has been the system we were teaching all the COVID period.
Oh,
so we
I
are
see.
very.
That's the tool. We use it to. So, I suppose we get started because we have a very we have 20 minutes before we start break. So yeah, this is Breakout Group 2, and this should be shared with the people online. So we have, okay, let me see if I can pass this. The questions. So these are the questions we're supposed to work on today. So we can just read them first, and then perhaps what we can do is just briefly present ourselves again for those who have not done this the first day, and start with the first question maybe before coffee break. So the first question is about the aims of the global coastal experiment, the objectives of the experiment, why we do this for, who we do this for. The second one is about the criteria for the selection of test sites. So we're not supposed to select the sites today, but to give some criteria, which would be the good ones. Then questions 3 and 4, I'm not sure I fully understand them. So hopefully, we're glad we have a video with us, so maybe you can explain exactly. So outcomes from each area, so I'm not sure if these are the focus areas of CoastPredict or the areas where we have those sites. And also new technology to be implemented in each area, so I'm not sure I see the exact connection. But maybe we won't have time to go that far, we'll see. And number 4 is data management and best practices. Again, I'm sure I fully understand the relation. So are these best practices with respect to data management? I'm not totally sure. But let's start with maybe a quick presentation of people in this room. So my name is Pierre Lemay-Frambeau. I'm a researcher. I work in Lagos, in Toulouse. And I've been interested in coastal modeling and ocean forecasting for 25 years now. My main interests are mostly data assimilation and statistical methods applied to coastal ocean forecasting. Tom, you want to go ahead?
Yes, I'm Barry Fugro. I'm Fugro. So, yeah, my role mainly is about looking at innovation strategy for our business and building a business to support all of your needs. So that's why I'm
Currently, I work here at Bologna University. I am essentially an ocean modeler, both from physical and biological.
Hi, I work at CMCC in the Open Division. I'm a researcher in climate change, but I'm more on the policy side of climate change and adaptation.
Hello, I'm Seymour. I'm a PhD student here at Bologna University, and I will be working at CMCC on developing coastal ocean models in support of variation research.
First, let's go in. I work for a small non-profit company like that. Systems and systems of systems.
Thank you very much.
My name is Simon Islam. I'm a physical oceanographer by trade. That was a career in business. And I'm currently in the acting director of the Global Ocean Services Increase.
The curator and professor of ocean sciences at the University of Miami, physical oceanographer background, modeling. I'm very interested in interactions between the coastal part with the open ocean and the land. And the last year, I was so inspired by the UNDP. I've been very interested in coastal resilience, especially combining different aspects of environmental
Thank you. I'm Joaquin Tintorea, I'm a director stay, and I'm particularly interested in integration elements towards in CoastPredict and in general integration in real joint work, observation on data, responding to stakeholders through the value chain. No more business.
I'm Jake Roman. I'm interested in global interoperability and the ability to use data from regions and sites together. What involved information system from Jericho. I asked to create what was core and how it's called cores. And I'm interested in pushing best practices, propagation of networks.
I'm not Bell. I'm also a school starter for training. I'm now working at Figure and on students over at resiliency and products. So yeah, I'm really excited to work with CoastPredict.
Thank you very much. Also, it looks like we have a good balance of the various aspects of why CoastPredict is us together. Now we have online people, so I don't know if they can hear us. And please, could you, if you can you introduce yourself briefly? I'm not sure exactly how to see who is online. So please go ahead if you hear us. Okay, currently, I'm not sure they can. Is there?
Just click on that box.
Yeah, but. Oh.
There's a few people online. Eric, do you want to?
Good morning. I'm Eric Baylor. I work at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. I focus on modeling and data assimilation, focusing predominantly on satellite data assimilation, seeing how we can bring that to the coastal regional models of interest to this group.
You'd like to go next?
Hello, everyone. I don't know if you can hear me. My name is Vasilios Vervatis. Hello, everyone. My name is Vasilios Vervatis. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm a physical oceanographer from the University of Athens. I'm involved in the past few years in Copernicus Marine Service Evolution, mostly on ensemble data simulation. And I would be interesting to contribute to the predict on time ocean modeling efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we should try to get them louder. So that if they have to say something at some point, you can hear that they have to say something. That's the maximum.
Okay, who'd like to go next? One more person?
Yeah, there's one.
Maria? We can't hear anything. Maria, are you there?
Maybe Maria is us, because I see.
Yeah.
But someone.
Some? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. Well, should we move on?
Yeah, that's okay. I hope you online people can hear us. Yes. Okay. So let me try to move to the next slide. Okay. So actually, yesterday after dinner, I just put some thoughts about the first question. So I thought maybe I would write them on the slide just to get the discussion started, and of course we can get the discussion going afterwards. So the first question is about the aims of the global coastal experiment. And my first idea was to wonder whether coastal resilience would be an aim per se. So should we try to build coastal resilience, and how should we do that? How about something that would be like facilitating decision-making on coastal threat prediction and mitigation options, for instance, something like that. And work towards facilitating the decision-making by having this experiment and showcasing some solutions and comparing, contrasting them. So that's one possible way of putting it. But coastal resilience by itself looks like probably too compact goal to me and a bit cryptic. So yeah, let me go through all this and then we can have a discussion. Now there are two. Well, if we believe that threat is something which is central to what we want to do, then there are two aspects I can see. The first one is prediction, predicts the occurrence of threats. And the first question we could ask ourselves is how useful are prediction system components? Component can be everything at predicting threats. So this can be various types of observations, modeling systems, analysis system, digital platform, and even down the value chain, everything related with applications and decision making. So I believe that for this, it could be useful to have some kind of components, threats, matrix that we probably won't be able to design today, but probably beyond this meeting, work on something like that. And in addition, this beyond the decade, well, having such such elements, such tools would probably help building a training base for machine learning algorithms to relate the targets such as threat prediction with any types of elements that can be used to predict those threats. Well, the second type of question is about threat mitigation. So, and this brings up the idea of building ad hoc prototype what-if systems. This has been said a few times during this meeting up to now. And for instance, that could be used to test scenarios. So, of course, occurrence of threats, but also options that could be used to mitigate those threats. There is a question of facilitating decision making. So that's the third element here. We could think of aiming at discovering efficient ways and also illustrating through this experiment efficient ways to inform and engage local socioeconomic and political players in an approach which is originally mostly technology-based. It's based on technology. Most of us are either scientists or engineers and are mostly into the technology aspects. And well, there are some people who are actually making decisions who are not in that approach. So how do we organize the facilitation of the decision making? These are just three more aims which I thought about. So discovered which essential ocean variables are most useful for coastal threat prediction and mitigation. So I think in Nedjami's slides yesterday, she had something about human-related variables. There was a list of boxes. And she sent the slides this morning, but I didn't have time to really add that. So we probably need to have this background discussion at some point. Here, another aim also could be to allow local players to test their coastal threat prediction / mitigation solutions in other sites. So that's also why it's not only a top-down approach, clearly. It has to be also fruitful for everybody, for participants. So there must be an incentive to participate. And one incentive could be to, for instance, for private sector players to enlarge their market, essentially, by reaching out to other sites and other situations with the same type of threat configuration, for instance. And another one here is to add value to existing ad hoc systems. Some of them we saw, for instance, this morning, for instance, by providing bigger pictures, so relating the sites with each other and having the connection between the CoastPredict value chain and the global elements which are available now, the elements of global and basic scale prediction. Okay, so these are just the first elements and thoughts I had after dinner yesterday. So I think we could have a discussion on that. What you think? Just forget about this. I should just. What is your view? Well, I'm just doing this for the moment. Please keep track of the time so that we.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. What can we do in 3 minutes?
Well, yeah.
So, yeah, please.
So I feel that these are a mix of things. So we could have top aim, and some of these are around how we, or features, how we will do it. So we can divide this into features we expect to see, but our top aim needs to be more direct and to society. So we will fundamentally upgrade society's coastal resilience capability, right? Make a stronger thing by facilitating decision making, by having the data available, and put it down in the things that we want to see in the project, or the way we're doing it, that have a big impact area. And my second, this is a big impact area, coastal resilience, but I never really fully understand if that encompasses biodiversity and sort of biology and thriving blue economies. I want to see resilience and thriving communities, let's put it that way.
I think to expand on that very forward, I think these are all really good points, but they are very feature driven. I think when you're communicating to your stakeholders and the community, you need some sort of value proposition. So people can really understand what it is we're doing in 2 or 3 lines. So I think we have to really boil this down into value proposition. So what is it that people will understand, so they can really say, I understand that's what they're doing, but what are we doing different to everyone else? It also needs to be communicated as well.
Yeah, sure.
And then we can set how we do that handling. So I think we start with the why and what and how.
I agree with what Emerson, and this is why I propose that rather than using coastal resilience in the goal, we use the resilient coastal communities, because that's very inclusive and it brings to people's mind right away the community aspect, the stakeholder engagement, and also we have to be clear that it is a holistic approach that involves all aspects.
Yeah. I suppose mostly I agree with the resilient coastal communities. That's fine. I think it's more focused already. But still, is that the objective of the experiment? I mean,
and it's interesting. Yeah, it seems that I was not sure, but it is in the goal. It's the last part of the goal that puts the answer. I think it is good to have a focus, and this is such a fantastic topic, you know, that really it's easy to communicate. And if you think about it, it really makes everything possible to arrive to that. You need the reservation, you need the money, you need the integration, you need all that stuff. Rather than just saying it's an experiment to prove the knowledge of the cost of everything.
yeah, improved knowledge is, I think, it's not something I believe that should appear prominently. Because it should be more focused than that.
I think I would almost like to see operational there. What we're trying to do, as I understand it, is move towards more operational delivery of data on a regular basis. Improving knowledge for me goes in a different direction. I think we incorporate knowledge to deliver excellence.
Knowledge
we can't do without it.
It's fundamental.
But we're not just on exploring knowledge, we're about delivering.
Innovation methodologies and tools to make this That's the knowledge.
But still, yes, you have to make the link, I think, clearly with resilient coastal communities, okay? And what we want to do, which is basically a technology-based problem.
But the challenge is how does that relate externally? So I think what we need to look at is segmenting the stakeholders that you will be interacting with and defining purpose. So I think there is a segmentation of purpose, which we say communities, infrastructure, and nature. So those are the three key elements of coastal resilience that we look at, but I don't know if that relates to what you all look at as well. And those are the elements of the risk and those are the problem that we need to solve.
Goes a little bit to Jay's, which was speak the same language as the people you're trying to.
I also want to comment that I fully resonate with you, that if I had to put up a cell program, I would sell coastal resilience versus coastal resilience segments, it's going to get more challenging. And the second thing is the word threat to me, I don't know what it means. Is that invasive species? Is it habits? Is it?
It's something about what?
Well, we have to use the word threat.
No, I don't think it's me. It's something I've been trying to use to rationalize the approach.
Can I say just, sorry to interrupt, it's 11 o'clock, if in 5 minutes you want to break, and then you can reconvene automatically as soon as you're out, or just get a coffee and then come in.
So in 5 to 10 minutes?
Yeah.
We should.
We should, the coffee is in this room and the bar, so this is two rooms. And I've already told the others, more or less, 5 minutes.
Do the other people have to come through this room or they can go around? They can go around, okay, good.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me, you online people, but please feel free to interrupt us and please make your comments if you have some, because there is no way I can see who wants to speak.
Do you not get a raised hand? Because on the online we can raise our hand, or we put things in chat. This is Eric Baylor speaking. A couple quick comments. I concur with the focus on decision making, and as we talk in terms of coastal resilience, it needs to be broader from my perspective than just the threats, because there's routine operations that are associated with coastal resilience as well, and that requires the routine predictive capabilities, both modeling and the observation, that entire value chain.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, this is something, let's see. Yeah, this is something, yeah, okay, so maybe we should be a bit broader than that.
Can we define, is decision making about answering questions? Can we define questions we need to answer? Is that too
I think they're quite big.
Yeah.
We're looking for words that encapsulate broader ideas and resonate with the communities.
Also, I wanted to say something more.
Yeah, I didn't see much of the stakeholders here, and you mentioned it. I think it's critical to at least make a list of what we have provided stakeholders.
Agreed.
And I think we have to take even a little bit of a time and more general level. Why are we doing this at all? Right? So the first thing should be really to cover the diversity of the coastal environments, because we want to have all the different aspects of coastal environments, right? That's
With the relationship with the coastal community.
And address and then cover the different aspects of challenges and needs of the societies, the natural systems and the human systems that we live in.
Okay. I like this.
Like, why are we even doing this, right?
Yeah. Well, this is what also, the question which I've been trying to address. So, but this is, this is more higher level.
But yeah, sorry. I think I could almost part of the goals, that those specification of human and natural systems, because coastal communities can be different things for different people. So do we want to make it specific in the goals? So that would be clear.
I sometimes worry whether we have CoastPredict's kind of aim and vision, right? And then we can rewrite that. Oh, sorry, I think, we spent a lot of time talking about CoastPredict's aim and vision, and I feel sometimes we go back around the same things, so we should check that out. But what is the coastal experiment going to do within CoastPredict, as well as something that should be reflected in what the aim of the coastal experiment is, not just what the aim of the whole program is?
Can we make this more tangible? Can we break
Yes,
it?
because that's what it is.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
right. This is how we're going to have that impact.
A mechanism like OKRs and objectives and then results is maybe a good thing to look at in how we set a key objective of what we want to achieve and what that's tangible, it has to be something that we can measure. And then look at the key results to deliver that objective. And they also have to be tangible.
That's a tool. So this regards the question of that today we won't go to the bottom of that.
Yes. Okay, like I said,
And I will need to have to be another something else after this discussion to really work on the rationale. Today we won't. It's just 1 hour and a half. Possibly go to further.
From my view, I agree with the sense that we have to initially at least go to a higher level. That's my view on why. And the first thing to me, the why, is because we want to move from what is really a conceptual definition to planning and implementation. We want to do things in specific places. So that means from the conceptual definition, and we have a lot on the conceptual. When I say conceptual definition, I'm basically referring to the background document from CoastPredict that we should all know by heart. And that we not starting by. But that's important. There's not a way to reinvent the wheel. Okay. So I think the first thing to me is this: that CoastPredict we have to move from conceptual definition to planning and implementation in some test sites. That's what the aim, I think, the story. That's the why. And following the background document, that has to be recognized. That background document is 2 years old. For example, issues like coastal communities, there are many different elements that are not yet there and that should be there. Otherwise, I think we have a problem with semantics.
Yes, but what for? Sorry, what for? For which purpose?
Well, the next point to me is the aim of the global coastal experiment is to provide a unified framework. That's what you want for something like this.
It's not exactly what the has in our goals.
I don't think, given the funding situation of CoastPredict, I don't really think that we can be very specific. Because you were asking about specific problems. Specific problems are going to be different in different sites. In one site, it's going to be mine erosion, in other site, it's going to be eutrophication, in other one, it's going to be climate, sea level rise, beaches, etc., etc. So I don't think we can be very specific right now, and we have to accommodate the why and the aim to really have a wide view. Assure that we go from conceptual definition to planning and implementation. We have to assure that.
But we have to promise that we will test, but in at least, that is my personal opinion, at least 2 sites of common problems, challenges, attributes, whatever. Because to me, this is the beauty of such an experiment, that otherwise if somebody provides methodology and solutions in one place, they might not be the best possible. If you do it in 2 places that are similar characteristics, then you have more confidence that this is the best.
But we're waiting to be answered.
So could you summarize it by something like have impact and design the future? and the design for the future, that's kind of your role then.
I don't think we've come up with this today, but I think we have points that we can take forward to then work on. I think coming up with a vision is one of the hardest things to do. And I think it will take a little bit of time to get to that final vision and system. It's taken us 18 months.
How do you really say this to someone, not only in terms of facts, but just convincing that this is worth it?
And I think you have to be able to get funding. You have to be able to communicate to those groups, whoever else to access them.
From the vision is pretty much related to the outcomes.
Exactly.
And the outcomes from CoastPredict, the 7, 8 outcomes that we have, they were actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And they are taking one to another. So the vision, the coastal, the global coast expert has to allow us to reach the development of the economy. So what we probably need is to work better on the vision, etc. We will set it better.
So is the experiment to do research and development, or is the experiment, from my perspective, how to implement an operational value chain from the predictions within the coastal regime, and then getting them, creating the whatever the data collection, capturing and assessment, and then modeling and prediction, and then the dissemination, so that the decision makers then have the tools necessary to do what it is they're doing for supporting the coastal resilience, or whatever the focus area is. And so for me, that is, how do we effectively implement that in a relatively shorter period of time, and have those readily components to integrate?
Yeah, did you hear?
Yeah.
Yes, I think you made a key point. We aim this rapid development of great, and that's this is, you know, we can get there in the largeness of, you know, 20 years. We haven't got 20 years. So rapid development is.
There is a philosophical question here about building CoastPredict versus building something which is more focused on giving decision makers the tools to sort out options regarding coastal resilience.
But then I think that they are embedded, these two things, within the coastal.
Probably we should have.
And I think if we neglect one or the other, we're not really explaining.
I think that's a very nice conclusion.
So yes, the general idea is facilitate me rather than defining as a nation, generic coastal resilience or coastal movements. I would say that we should aim to define in some way where are the limits of the resilience. So resilience is defined in technology and the capacity to return to its existing state once the disturbance is removed. So there is a limit.
Well, yeah, but this is where you probably need the
yes,
scenarios.
because otherwise resilience. There is a reason that talking about resilience becomes sort of a foggy buzzword. And then even in ecology, there are two definitions. There is also defining resilience as the capacity of the system to maintain its structure in the face of the disturbance. Sometimes it's called resistance.
Coastal community.
So to me, the general aim should be provide information about the limits of the system. Over those limits, the system will become another system. First, to begin with, then build on this.
That's a really good point. Focus is key. We don't have a lot of time. We don't have to focus.
We don't have, and on the shorter time, in making correct observation, correct prediction, can help not to find the perfect coastal system, but can mitigate quite a lot and can help recognize the system. And keep in mind that when we talk about is a disturbance, normally ecologists think as the disturbing factor, the atomic impact. Now we have the others. So we have to bring everything together. So the system has to be considered in a different way. And well, again, this, at the very general level, my crucial word is the limit of the find out where finish the safe zone. Sometimes
some typical.
I have 3 words to propose for the solutions or whatever before I forget. So the first is customized. That this will be customized to the particular, issues faced in the particular case. Then trusted because the trust will be because this will have already been tested in more than one places, so that gives you the trust that this is the best possible. And efficient because it has to be bear in mind the limits of time, cost, which you have, the capability, interoperability. So to me, these are the, if I had a 2-minute elevator pitch to a decision maker, a policy maker, a funder, that's what I tell. This is what I can give you and you don't have now.
Okay, we should
Let's do the break
now and reconvene 20 minutes later.
Fresh coffee.
That's it. Oh, we have different configuration of the board. This is the group.
Here we have to let another
Okay, we do it this way. Okay, so let's reconvene. So again, those questions. So we thought of going to the second question, criteria of selection of test sites. So if you remember earlier, just to give my train of thought, but it's not mine. So I started with the idea of resilience and therefore the concept of threats, which can depend from one side to the other. So one of the ideas we could have regarding the selection of sites would be to have a variety of threats to address. So in some areas it will be coastal erosion, in some areas I don't know, sea level rise, like in the Netherlands, for instance, or can be anything related to that. So that could be one possible way. So I'll go back to this idea, which I just didn't show a bit afterwards. So it's not written here, but this is something which just makes sense, at least given my own train of thought. Now, we have some other ideas here. So we have Nadia's initial list of criteria. Well, I didn't have the list when I wrote this, so just some other ideas which I may have. So there should be probably a variety of geometry, so bathymetry, narrow white shelf. So this clearly will be very different in terms of results, presence of cave stories, and so on. Atmospheric forcing will clearly play an important role, so it's probably important if we are to validate the concept, to be able to validate the concept in different regime. For instance, in the case of white shelf, we can have mid-shelf forms with an inner shelf or outer shelf. So that this will be an interesting element, stronger, weak mixing, stratification, and so on. Some special tidal effects. So it's all about the dynamics here. But then again, well, this idea of threats versus components matrix gaps. We could be focused at least partly on gaps in that matrix. So we need some elements to address some particular threats, and this has not been done now. We want to validate that concept, for instance. This could include even from scratch site. maybe one more, because it's a bit risky if we get the money. The talk you mentioned yesterday, this feasibility, usability value, so maybe elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, one of the out there, which is business viability as well. So is it worth the investment? But I think that often doesn't apply to science, but I think these two are the most important ones for sure. But I think there also has to be a decision on, is it viable for us to go there?
Yeah, sure.
I think there's going to be components to that with regard to safety. There's so many different things we have to consider. I think your point, or if we could just jump in, I think citing gaps is difficult because I think where there's data gaps, that's going to make the challenge even harder. So maybe we need to start where there's a wealth of information that we need to.
It's maybe not a gap, but it's something is missing to address the question, which is some element. For instance, we don't have the high frequencies in the system. We need to have it in order to predict the experiments or.
I think so the first two items that you have are examples.
Yeah, of course.
We need to go one more level up in defining what we're trying to achieve. What Tom has is the portion of it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure about these first 3 points with is this the type of data that's needed to, when
maybe it's not needed. Yeah, I can agree. Yeah.
I would submit that another consideration that's not listed on the slide is what are the decisions that can be supported? What is the breadth of decision areas, such as which sectors are supported by a region? Because if it's a very narrow sector, you're not going to get as much return as to what you're supporting with the coastal prediction capability. But if you're, for example, you have a port there, you might have to deal with the marine transportation, you might have to deal with flooding, you might have to do with pollution coming off the land, all sorts of things of that ilk. And so that I think should be a consideration, because what we're trying to do is to enable the operational coastal forecasting capability for a breadth of sector support, because that demonstrates its long-term societal benefit.
Yeah, this comes back a bit to my first.
Yeah, I was going to answer that. So I think vulnerability is the biggest thing you have to look at. And I think there's vulnerability, but there's a viability for the group to serve the need within the time frame that we have. I think that's something we really have to look at.
Extensibility, can this be extended to other pilots?
And I think we have to pick sites and pick problems at each side to test scalability. You need to be able to then move the experiment that you've done on one side to another side and see if we can replicate the same results.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to tell the people who are attending online that I cannot edit the slides, but we have a rapporteur who takes the comments, and so we'll have in the presentation this afternoon fuller, more complete elements that everybody gave during the discussion.
There's one other thing that we're working with some African Union partners, and there are some areas that are just unsafe to work with. So if new data has to be acquired, then, if it's an area where we can install it, or it's not safe to go out in the waters, or, then that's,
My personal point of view is, I don't know who mentioned that this yesterday, but it's a very short period of time to plan for new sites. So, well, in my view, the sites which could be part of the experiment will be, I think, probably existing sites, maybe sites that need to be completed by new observations or new systems. But sites where there are absolutely nothing, well, except what I mentioned here, but that's difficult.
Does that deliver value? Because I think if we're working on sites that have been worked on so much in the past, is it adding anything to what's already been done on those sites? So I think that's something we really need to explore.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I think there's going to be a difference between the developer and the developing world. I think a lot of these sites are.
But that's part of the interest of the experiment.
Connected to what Thomas was saying before, vulnerability, I think we should have sites that are related to Megaton and the ocean. And on the contrary, marine protected area, I think are key in the restoration, conservation, and connect to what we are discussing, sustainability and biology as well. So I think the discussion we had in the time as well as large area, but also the rest areas.
So we say the variability in where we go. So we don't always looking at the same problem, we're looking at a small group of different problems in different areas.
Yeah, also, but the threats might be the different nature. Urban areas for wetlands, for natural conservation. Some of them will be short-term, like extreme events, with some decision making that will need to be quick.
Typically, working with today a bit, one challenge for them is how to connect each other. Is the optimal way of how to expand them, which is the optimal way to expand the data, just a silicon or what is most effective. And then they need a regular capacity of observing and modeling to be sure to understand what is happening to their environment. So how it's effective is a general need, but they are sensible, let's say, to really, they need to understand why other species appear, and is going on, or something disappear, mortality, so they are really laboratory for that. So they need this observing and forecasting capacity. Yeah, it's a clear simple thing.
I think one of the biggest practical challenges that have been alluded to is security of the systems. I think that's one of the biggest challenges we have, is if we go and observing systems in West Coast Africa or somewhere in the developing world, they get stolen. And I think that's flat.
But in fact, marine protected areas are very suitable for them because they are protected from fishery, from so it's often in the developed country they have radar monitor the entrance and exit. So somehow they're inside.
That's really it's an important part of community engagement. I think the community understand why those systems are there. This has to be part of the assessment.
So,
feasibilities we had one which says sustainability, we continue to have extensibility, which means we go to other sites, and commitment, which means minimum size. The minimum viable product.
Sorry.
Sustainability, extensibility, and almost wanted to say accessibility, which means we can get in there, what shots we need, what dark shots we need. We had problems going to the Middle East with the team that I had.
Community buy-in? I mean, it's not
community.
Right.
Yes, no, absolutely. We can do forward.
Yeah, I'm just reading the
viability and feasibility are close to the same. So you have keeping your three elements in hand is where feasibility may be there in this instance.
By accessibility, what do you mean?
Say that again.
What do you mean by accessibility?
extensibility.
Extensibility is to be able to replicate.
Okay.
Yeah, this one in this sense can be replicated. And there is something that might be related in the guidance principles, which are in the CoastPredict strategy and implementation plan. The first one, there is one on the clear stakeholder engagement plans. Maybe this can be related to this, because if there is a plan for stakeholder engagement, then maybe this ensures that this can be in practice expanded and sustained. So that's one, I think it's one criteria.
There was an interesting concept from a letter yesterday about a tier. So tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 level on the pilot. And I think it could help to face the problem that people want to be engaged. I did a few workshops with the this summer, and people were saying, why not my area? My area is sensitive, we are already taking measurements and so on. So somehow I think we should establish a matrix of activities needed, data simulation, forecasting, observing system, and so on, where we want to work together. And then cross-cut it with possible sites. Maybe I have already 25 sites proposed by the predictor time community. They are too many, but on the other side, how can I say no to the Lithuanian guy that really wants to get involved? And of course, they don't have the need to cover in the RDSC. So somehow we could have super sites, the first step, where we do everything. But then other sites that could be labeled as site where we do a bit less, and maybe we will improve later stage. And in this way, we keep the community together. Otherwise, I think it's not easy to convince. Because some of are small actors, but very strong. For instance, yesterday there was Andrea Valentini is from Emilia-Romagna coastline. I mean, his focus and maximum is the active. Then we will never have the effort to come with these instruments in Albania or Egypt and so on. So somehow we
I think you have to remember that these are tests. So we're there to demonstrate what this can do. And I think when the scalability would be go to anyone else once we kind of tested it. So it's how fast we can test and test these feasibility value. And then we can scale out to anywhere that's needed. So I think we have to not be so trying to solve everything straight away, just focus on specific problems. I think what you said is really good about we need to create a scoring criteria. You know, if we were doing this as a business, you would create a scoring criteria. So you have to set what the parameters are that you want to measure to define success of those. And then put a score against it, and then total up the score, and then that is where you point.
Yeah, it's always this idea that there is a global focus. One of these building, which was really building something that hopefully you have some days in your UK, and build something which is demonstration of going towards better coastal resilience. So with some of those aspects targeted particularly. So,
can we combine some of these and say that one of the criteria is meeting science requirements? Another criteria is having an affordable logistics. Is everything, including safety?
That's of course the question. You mean affordable in terms of cost?
I think value covers the first point, and I think viability would be covering the cost aspect of it, because I think it has to be viable. We have data there. What's the cost of actually installing systems? Is there a risk that they might get stolen? Do we have to cover that cost? These are all realistic things we have to deal with.
There's the science and the social science.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I think that comes in value added down to the impact that we create. And that's the value we measure, I think.
One of the considerations that I have to say is when you want to work in the Arctic, in one of the indigenous communities, it takes between 10 and 20 years to build sufficient trust that you can actually do anything.
But on the other side, the partners was there were already people in CoastPredict from the East, you were talking about the other.
That's part of it.
So we are already team working there in the partnership.
Where we think
Points
that's
that have like,
existing partnerships. That's all.
Just say anything about this.
And because among the list, I would say that there are two things what I've written, and there is, we should choose the test sites according to the sort of classification of the sites. I mean, a protected area might have different issues than a coastal region report or so this is, I would say that this depends very much on the value of the areas.
Yeah.
And
the first list is actually the one in the document. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just some ideas.
Yes. So first, think about the value. So if it's a protected area, then we have to think some experiment in a certain way. Then maybe we deal with a highly organized area. So then the values will be different.
This is the possibility to share. Well, let's see. Some sites might already have a nice instrumentation and nice digital elements, tools, and so on, but not really willing to change their practice to get inserted into a broader experiment. So it's interesting to have some areas which can be flexible enough, some sites which are flexible enough to be able to discuss and maybe change their options for at least for the duration of the experiment. We want openness in a way and flexibility. I don't know if you see what I'm saying.
So that would user behavior in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah, but also the willingness to consider adopting some practices that will be decided by the community, not just by the local.
So I would just like to bring something up that has been mentioned in different ways, but I think that, you know, highlighting this as part of the criteria for these either super sites or pilots sites or something, is to, and this is related to the variability in the areas that we want. So it's not just about choosing different geographical sites, but it's also about categorizing the areas when it comes to the type of ecosystem and coastal land use, the type of coastal hazards that are affecting those areas, the types of end users and stakeholders that are.
Absolutely, that's a nice summary. Yeah.
It's like you basically have, you know, 3 types for each of these categories, and then make sure that we are, you know, we have our 10 sites around the world that, yeah, and then our examples.
I think that's very most of the ideas. Also, there will be a question of funding. So at some point we have to be practical and take.
There's the ability to schedule existing sites also.
Yeah.
And one of them, we cannot get to.
And existing relationships, right? So if
existing locations, accessible
and
open. Is there more we can say about this? I'm trying to see in the questions. Provide end-to-end demonstrations. That was one of the criteria here. Reading the full value chain from observations to applications, and with the digital platform in between, and accreditation system. Multinational, multidisciplinary university balance. Effort to use new methodologies and technologies within the different aspects of the project. Best practices for open access data, something that we say. The plan for after the project continued development of the basic information infrastructure, so the sustainability that was mentioned, and solutions/services with adequate public-private partnerships. I think that's an important aspect of the also. Capacity building and machine literacy activities. There is also this question that was brought yesterday also, I don't know, by whom, because we had so many discussions, to make sure to include local socio-economic partners and perhaps even local partners, or at least have the right people who can understand in which form things should be put so that it's useful for decision making. That's probably important if you want to have an end-to-end demonstration.
The problem I see is that most of the sites that were represented by the people that I met during the workshop meeting of the time, they all talk with this. They are all threatened by different problems, maybe including coastal harbor and Breakout area. They already somehow it would be very difficult to say you yes or you no. Because some of them come from Indonesia, Australia, US, South Africa, and West Africa, and as many as you can imagine. More than you can imagine.
I think it's a really good point because you can't say everyone's problems. So I think you've got to find the commonality between the problems and try and understand that commonality.
That's what came up yesterday in my mind. If we really set up key research, scientific activity, and those technological challenges that we want to implement, we want to work on that simulation and some forecasting and so on. And then, of course, not at that point, when we specify it, not all the sites will be ready to do that. So then we could decide that most of these activities will be done in the super sites, but then each of the other smaller sites will be ready to join and then send the people, and then so you have already the capacity building. So to me, it's a matter of management, of organizing these set of activity, data availability, quality control procedures, checklist, then even enter only because they are interested in using satellite.
For instance, a commitment for some sites, invest for some other sites.
That comes down to viability, I think. So I think that's is there a kind of common user problem we can service scale? So that's something part of all of these test sites is what are the common problems that we're seeing, the underserved problems. And is that then achievable to build at scale?
I think we should move to the question.
Looking for template matrix. Template matrix.
For matrix, yeah. Clearly, there will be probably two types of matrices I can think about. One, but the needed components versus maybe the hazards, which ones are needed for the start, and one about with size, three-dimensional matrix.
I summarize that as phrase selection, scoring, and criteria matrix.
Yeah.
So I think we have to define what's most important, what's least important, and all these things to us, and then look at each side.
That would be different from the success score, right? As in one is one matrix is for this is how we decide that this is going to be the pilot, and the other one is like.
And
Yeah.
success is
This
something,
is how.
it's an output of the existence. Actually, it's the output of the.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to the next question. I don't know how we're doing for time. Tom, you have.
It's 10 past 12.
I have no idea. Okay, and then that would be good to have somebody from the project because I'm not sure I understand exactly what that means. So perhaps each area means each focus area. This is my best guess. It means that we have focus area 1 on the short term, Giovanni just said 2 on the climate prediction, and so on. We have it's supposed to be a discussion for what would be needed for each area. And then I had one comment to make, which is actually transverse to all. It's the interest of ensemble-based approaches. So it's something that can be used throughout the value chain. So the production is, for instance, based on multimodal or based on perturbing a model given some assumptions in the error sources. And then you can have an output which is in terms of probability and can be used throughout the value chain. For instance, you can have scores, probabilistic scores on the occurrence of events using, for instance, some binary scores or continuous scores. It's more my domain, this is why I have something to say about this. So this is something which is can be useful both for science, so CoastPredict, and for solutions, so maybe experiment, and also, for instance, for insurance, insurance people can use probabilistic output, local decision makers, prototyping of products that can be marketed or things like that. And also, in addition to probabilistic output, you can have uncertainty estimates, error bars. That's something which can be useful. When you have ensembles, you can make forecasts, ensemble forecasts, for instance, can be used for, this is something which is used for climate prediction, but it can be used also for extreme event and to also to test some, how the system performs and if there is, what is the occurrence of hazards in the near future. This can be used as a training base for machine learning algorithms. So in any case, this is a possible transverse approach that we may want to push or suggest, and maybe some of the, for instance, the super sites. And so this would go throughout the value chain and would lead to possible products and also try to, in a way, to answer the question of can we validate the system? Because when you have ensembles, you can also compare easily with observations. It's something that you can do because you can see if observations are compatible with your model. It's always the question of knowing when you have a model simulation. Well, it's not compatible with data. There is this misfit and so on. But what do we do with this misfit? What does it mean really? When you have an ensemble, you can say, okay, I can see if my observation is within. Okay, that's just.
I agree. I think ensemble engines, whatever we call it, is the way to go.
Yeah.
I think what we have to think about is what is the output of that ensemble engine. So there's going to be non-technical users a lot of non-technical users that will need to access the information that these ensemble engines create. So what would those look like, I think? It's something that we need to really, like what are the products we deliver for clients?
Yeah, well, some could put probabilistic output into categories, for instance, saying, okay, there is a high chance that the result, this particular essential ocean variable, which is important for resilience, is within this range. Within this range, this is what the system can forecast in the short term. At this range, 10 days, 2 days, and so on, 2 hours.
I would
yeah.
Sorry, I have a timeline, so it's hard to join you. I would propose that in addition to the outputs being in terms of the variable data, environmental parameters, is to take a look at what we're doing with those predictions in terms of supporting the various sectors, because that's what's being used for decision making. You say that, for example, the salinity of the ocean is this value. Who's going to use it how? Likewise with a wave forecast, or likewise with a current or sediment transport, whatever it is. It's putting it in the context of a range of things so that the people who are making decisions that are relevant to a specific sector can place it in context and understand what it is with regards to magnitude. Is the current too strong for me to be deploying my fishing nets? Or is the thermocline not in the right place? Whatever the case may be, I think that is where you get value from the coastal prediction. It's not just putting out the individual physical or biological parameter.
I agree. I think what you might find is that all of this wonderful technology, when it gets to the end user, will turn to a table that will be put into a report that will be used to make a decision. Yeah. And I think that's what we have to realise in science, is that that's basically where it probably ends up. It's probably down to a single number. It will cost X to do Y.
Yeah, this number has to be trusted by community. It has to have a measure of trust.
Yeah, trust is really important in that data. I think that's what we deliver as a community. It's trust in the
That's one interesting output of this experiment.
And that,
no, sorry, we have a...
The question was about new technology, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, this is not so new technology, but still it's not very widely used.
There are other things besides.
Okay, let's go back to the
new hardware, new car systems.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, I think that assembling something for decision making that is transverse and throughout the value chain is by itself, it's innovative and transformative. Dedicated is about transformative action. But yeah, this is new technology, so let's open the floor for discussion on this.
So new may be low cost.
New may be low cost. And
new low cost.
Low cost. Yeah, in CoastPredict, there are some people actually who make cheap sensors.
Perhaps a way of approaching this is by asking the questions for the given or the selected area for the experiment. What are the questions that will benefit from the prediction inputs? Because that's what, again, I keep going back to the decision making, and so that also helps identify what things can be brought to the table in terms of new technologies and new methodologies. What is the end point? I mean, just putting out a model, just put out a model, is not going to get you to where you want to go. Where you want to go is it has a societal benefit, and that comes with decision making.
Great point, I think it's how what decisions need to be made and how that decision will be made is really what we need to understand. Is it, decisions might take 20 years to make. Is that something that we can solve with science? Can we reduce that time frame for users?
That can be another value.
That's another great value, yeah. And that's what we want. It's great value.
Sure.
And I would say that if there is development in this low-cost technology, coupled with an extensive use of citizen science, so generating images, then machine learning will become almost undone.
And we don't have to understand
Yes. We have to involve the communities in this journey. I think if you think about crowdsourcing approaches.
I mean, if you are interested in knowing the concentration of paracetamol in the river, well, why not check the sale of the electric drug in the shops? Then, if analyzing the sale, then you can spend the processing side, the concentration in the region will grow up.
I think COVID was something quite simple, that everyone did their own tests during COVID. I think very existing where, you could do a water sample test.
So what I say is that maybe the machine learning now is not any longer a new technology. But if you implement a chain on low-cost sensor, citizen science, then that structure will become
This presentation will be useful, right? The taking a photo of the same.
that was very much impressive. It's not the first time that I saw a case of real citizen science, because it was one
It's simple. It's simple.
because just taking the snapshot of the jellyfish on the shore, just like
Regarding new sensors, what's important if we thinking of a quantitative data flow is to understand what are the errors associated with that. So that because there is a question of value chain, there is a question of trust chain. In a way. At the end, we say that we could just everything could come up with one figure, but it has to be trusted. So there has to be trust throughout the chain. And starting with observation, so that if there are new sensors, we should think of assessment of the observational errors, including deployment errors.
I think before we look at any new technology, there needs to be a gap analysis done. There's so much technology out there. There's the private sector and the public sector working on so many different things. If we have to take stock of where we are with technology right now, and don't reinvent the wheel, I think it's the worst thing you can do. And I think for me personally, I see so many different platform technologies evolving right now in both private and public sector. There's a lot of things we don't have to reinvent. Our goal is to be fast, I think, and we need to understand what's there and we can move forward to utilize. I think that's critical in any technology evaluation. Build by partner.
Well, low-cost is a bit different because it has this integration component that allows to reach out to more sites and more people. But all the new integration.
But also existing, technologies that are already set up, like CCTV cameras that can be.
Exactly. We did discuss this. We saw the presentation. Not on camera, but on pictures about the automatic detection of shoreline. Remember exactly. But there are people in my lab who do this sort of thing as well. To make a case for story version. And it's a bit okay. There is this question that I wanted to put in of keep track of the errors throughout the system if we want to have a usable output, which is not a new technology by itself, but it's a challenge. So the new technology is some kind of showcase. It shouldn't be the special target of focus. Not the strongest element. So, other than that, other comments on that? If not,
I think one thing to add is that new technology can just be the implementation of existing technology.
It can't.
It can integrate. Creating a new process where you do it is innovation.
I think so.
So you don't have to think about new sensors because they probably already exist somewhere in the prototype phase.
No, I totally agree on this.
If we create a system that works, that is an innovation.
In addition to new technologies, something to consider is also new ways to apply existing technologies, because that then has a much shorter development and implementation time frame.
if you move to the other side about the kind of models, it is the slide you have before about the non-abstract models.
Which one, sorry? The first one?
This one, maybe this is not a field of very new technology.
No, nothing is very new.
From the point of view of supporting decision making,
for the decade is transformative.
Yes.
Because it mixes the scientific approach and the engineering approach.
So from this point of view, I mean, going toward understanding the occurrence of extreme events, as well defining the concept and the great path in the city.
Both from public, private sector, and everybody.
And then you can achieve also that.
And so, also we know them sufficiently that we can, the trust is something that you can easily build because lots of publications and tools using them.
I think one point to add is that we're talking about things we don't yet know. We spend a lot of time in that problem space with our users, not in the solution space. I think as scientists, we would want to jump to solution space because that's where we're going to be effective and where we're coming from. But we have to just spend more time in the problem space to understand really what's needed. Because we can all assume what's needed.
But it's nice when you have something which can mix both. So it still has a scientific base, so it's problem-based, but you can, for instance, with ensembles, you can train machine learning to get a solution-based where you don't really understand what's going on. I mean, it's perhaps interesting to use a versatile approach or promote them. But yeah, this is
so this outcomes for each area.
I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Should we maybe ask Nadia, or do we assume because it could be area that it's site, right?
Yeah, but I thought she would have said site here. So I think it's focus area. But I don't have in my mind a full list of focus area.
Area means this area for site.
I was thinking about it, I don't have an answer.
Yeah. For instance, there's some of the areas which are only starting, such as health of coastal communities, or area 4. There's 3 is about the digital.
It's the integration.
Integration.
All the things.
So integration by itself is something which is a target, which is important.
There's a continuing argument or debate among the science community of what precision or uncertainty is sufficient. And in the climate business, you're in a different world than the coastal business. And we're worried about Africa in particular because they don't have the resources to buy seabird sensors and bring them down and help them work. It just doesn't all happen. And so we went through the curriculums. The uncertainties involved with coastal day-to-day management are much coarser than anything you need for climate, and it's a very different program.
There was this question at some point, 30 years ago, in the forecasting community. Some countries had the chance to have some very accurate sensors. And I was witnessing this from my data separation point of view. And there was this question whether we should know those for quality, some system. There have been lots of discussion on this. But there was an effort made to assess the errors of cheaper systems that had not allowed them to be in the.
I think it goes back to the need because it's affordability to meet the need. And I think sometimes having a system that doesn't give all the answers is okay. As long as it gives a specific answer, it allows you to focus on
That's why we use as fit for purpose. But
it needs to be studied.
Recently, focal area 1 is hazardous immediate course, and 2 is climate. And I'm not sure what it says for each area. We can do a true pilot this cost effective. That's what we're looking for everyone.
Okay, I think I start to understand. Yes. Yeah. For instance, for focus area 2, we need but it's going to be a bit hard to tackle because, well, long term is involved, so time series because of the planning.
Yeah, but then maybe less accuracy is required, right? Whereas if you need to prevent or prepare the community for a disaster that's tomorrow, it should be a lot more accurate than, right?
Probably,
It's,
yeah.
it's a difference of saving lives as well. So.
Yeah, typically in a planning phase, you have this cost spend, right? So you have, there's different requirements at different phases where you need time-critical data. It's about saving lives. That has to be highly accurate. But when you're planning, just to get an idea of, okay, we have this whole coastline way on the coast, that would be lower quality to begin with. Instead of doing a whole coastline really accurate, you can focus on the anomalies, and that reduces the overall spend, and that becomes valuable.
There is also an application maybe related to the duration of the experiment for this area to be useful enough for climate prediction. It cannot be clearly it's random. It has to be monthly or to this is that's not my specialty, so.
It is a very important point because I think that in oceanography in general, a very high resolution model is 1/12 degree or whatever, and for a decision maker, some of the discussions we've had when we had really high resolution data, which was 90 meter resolution, they said that's not good enough. So there is this resolution question that we have to address.
We scientists have some idea of what's needed to get river room, what resolution is needed to get the river room, to get the mixture from to have things. But yeah, decision making will have different criteria.
Right. The necessary resolution for a specific sector and application is going to differ, and so that's why it begs the question: what questions are you trying to address? And you have to figure out the breadth of the questions that are trying to support to help figure out then what is the appropriate resolution to target.
How do we go with that?
Well, that goes back to your figuring out which, for the domain area that is selected for the experiment, what are the sectors being supported by the coastal prediction capability, and that then tells you the sectors to figure out the questions that decisions are needed for, and then that then derives leads to an assessment of necessary resolution.
No, let's go on.
It's so dependent on the problem.
Yeah, but just
okay. How much to put?
It's 12.
Okay. Well, let's go to the last one. But again, I don't understand really. So data management and best practices. Data management is one thing, between best practices not the same thing. So I don't really see why both are in the same question. Regarding data, I asked this question yesterday about the use of restricted data within the experiment. This morning we saw a system about this where actually there were only the data were not actually part of the nodes. Linked or something like that. And Nadia said, oh, but the platform should hold the data. So that's something, okay, which is not clear to get started. So do we have things to say?
Data management is going to depend on where you are. I think if you have local data that you need to use, for instance, whatever reason we were working in Saudi Arabia, the data goes in the country. Also, local areas might be infrastructure to support what we're trying to do on cloud architecture. So,
I mean, there is an underlying question, is whether we would see across the site, even the super sites, a unique infrastructure regarding not only data, but data flow in general. I mean, meaning not only observations. Every intermediate project. Unique across all super sites. I'm using this word in lack of something better. And because I can't see everybody using it with the system they have some objectives, but not necessarily full integration.
This comes back to what we would need to test in viability is eventually this needs to be scalable and a scalable system that can do data management. And I can tell you from a private sector point of view, it's one of the hardest things to get right. If we have failed past and I'm trying to develop this, we can now deliver from straight from a field site straight into our entire.
So what are elements of the answer?
How much intelligence? It's complicated. There's a lot of learning that needs to be done, but I think the biggest thing is measuring the source and making sure that that source data is delivered straight into the system that you need. As soon as it moves away from this flow, you lose so much additional data you need, positional data, metadata, whatever. And it degrades the value of the data. And source data value is the most important, that's how we go trust.
Sorry, what is the DTSP exactly?
What, sorry?
The DTS hold data, what does that mean?
DTS, digital PS platform. That's good saying it's the platform that is supposed to be used for the global process. I mean, we're supposed to go into some detail in something which is, I think even the basics are not really clearly laid out.
So we need to redefine the problem.
Probably.
Yes. So it's not data management, it's really information flow. Because the methods, best practices are really to create trusted methods and trusted data. And so they can be combined together in the sense of trusted information.
Yeah, we can make this idea of trust that we mentioned earlier. That's one of the challenges in validating.
We had a debate last night, or maybe it was at breakfast, about the fact that should data be stored by each region by itself, or should they just be put into the cloud, and we have a central cloud to collect all of the data, and everybody has access to all of the files. Does the pilot have
Yeah, I think you have to look towards future trends on that, and I think you have to be saying skate where the puck's heading on this. So make sure that what we're building is sustainable. So if we start putting in data management systems locally, really moving to a cloud.
How do we have there is data that sits in empty countries, right? Coastal data.
Yeah.
And they may not want to put it in the cloud, but they want to work with it.
It's probably we struggle with. Not struggle with, we just have to make sure we accommodate those challenges, and it's one of those risks that you just have to manage. So you can't, I mean, the number of countries that have those restrictions is small, so let's meet the need of the biggest percentage of, I don't know the restrictions, but yeah, let's focus on what's going to be standardized across the most places. I think cloud is probably the best one.
So that's part of the answer to this question.
And also that there is very localized maybe higher resolution data, but we can still do something with whatever is currently available, you know, satellite data or whatever, then that should still be done. If there is value.
Before we finish about this, I don't know if there's people if they actually it's time for lunch. Do people who have, I don't say that any of us, other are not young, but you're younger. So, how do you see this sort of thing? It's complicated, it's challenging, it's.
I don't know, I can speculate more technical sides, data management, best practices. Maybe it's worth asking locals who will be on the sites if they also data, because sometimes they even have handwritten data as to what their experience and that's it. Yeah, but those are quite fragile because most of the time you can take some spikes and stuff, so that won't be useful in machine learning models. So, yeah.
Not really much.
Not about this question in particular, more generally the approach of having this meeting point somewhere at the end of the day. Several coastal experiments has one going on. Anything general
comments? Not
specific.
I mean, a lot of the time, just to echo what you said, a lot of the time is information is stored at high levels, the access is more specifically from a more developing perspective, and a lot of the time the information is stored at more locally over how to extract that and make it accessible at a high scale. Could be a big problem.
Yeah.
And then when we have these sort of super sites, maybe we are looking at a high level, then what steps would we then put in place in order to ensure that what is at the low level then is transparent at a high scale?
Those are performance metrics that can be extracted. And as you mentioned, in the probabilistic approach, you can use those metrics to advance further on. And so you have actually some outcome for the machine learning instrument to bring up solutions. And the solutions should direct the exact issues, whether it's a coastal problem, erosion problem, or some problems. Like,
so I think on your point, I think after that single source of truth. So that would mean that all the information is from one location, and I think it's easy to access. Everyone accesses the same information. So that's a lot of interface easy work. I think it's about reducing hassle for you. So if you want to make a decision to apply, you have to go through 4 levels of bureaucracy. That's makes sense. Maybe not want to go through that process, or you can't go through that process, which means it creates value for the decision.
The other side, I think that we have to start progressively. So each side will be ready to the data system. And then in the time, we can try to homogenize them.
I think there should be a common time frame. At some point, it has to be what's a human experiment. We'll have to come
This is one more thing. I mean, we haven't mentioned FAIR principles. Is it something that should be the FAIR?
Oh,
Like this.
but
Maybe even, look through them and see if that can be applied everywhere, right? Because there might be some.
I think it's somewhere in the document here. Yeah.
Just yeah, it's like a given that's the baseline, but maybe there are some areas where those 4 principles.
It's clarity. Because clarity data that you can't get at clarity.
On the other side, I see there are still barriers today to make accessible, make available custom data. They are complex, I mean, ultimately, it's not straightforward that you can upload Of course, it takes 1 year to contact the people, send the data, and so on. So there is a lot of capacity type gauge. If you install a new type gauge, it's not automatic. It goes to the machine. Even if you want to make it available. Teach the people how to do it. Let's say today, users send an email to another people, person to person, start to discuss, so we need to do a training also to log how to share this.
There's going to be a lot of content.
Okay, there are no more comments. So, online, okay, I think we've done. So, thank you very much for this interesting and short discussion. Clearly, there will be some other steps needed to put this into a plan.
That the attachments, part of the 6 or 7, those are the things that we should go forward.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I was looking forward to